On today's episode of Watch Chair Go, we are back with my airport tug, and today, hopefully, we get to drive this thing. It'd be pretty amazing. What is going on, guys? I am Watch JR Go, and today, like I said, hopefully we get to drive this thing straight to Taco Bell. That's my plan. But first, we have a lot of work to do to put it back together. So, in the last video, we left off with the Evaporust in the gas tank. It's still in there. It's been multiple days, and that stuff went from that nice, clear, gasoline-looking liquid to straight black. So I think it's in there doing its job. I just got back from O'Reilly's, where we have a stash of parts to fix this thing. We got a little inline fuel pump to replace the one that's probably junk. Mounted on this thing, it makes very strange noises. And we have the exact ignition switch that I needed for this. So it's a standard UM41, and what standard is doing is reselling the Polac. So it's, there you go. There's the old one, there's the new one, and this one is much, much nicer, and I think completely ready to go. So just a 5-terminal ignition switch. We are ready to grab a screwdriver, put this ignition switch together, get it back in the hole, and hook the battery up, and hopefully we can turn it on and this thing will have power. And then we can try to crank it, see if the clutch switch works, and if so, I think we're ready to get a fuel system going. If that works, we can drive it. So let's go. Shout out to everybody that said go to the boat store to get this. I haven't been there yet, but I'm excited that this part is just a standard sender from a boat. So hopefully that works out too. I'll take that in there in a couple of days or something like that, and we'll have a sender sorted out. So I've got a picture of the ignition switch right here that we took so we could get the orientation and all the wires set up correctly. And that leaves us with, what's that? This one says center. Awesome. All right, so we're gonna reference the picture and the labels that it didn't fall, that we put on everything, and hopefully put this right back together and toss it back in the hole. Obviously, no one else has anything like this. It's clearly all been patched together, so it's not like there's a guide. Label it and put it right back together the way it came apart if you're doing this yourself. Time for our first test of our ignition switch here. I just hooked the battery up, and either we'll have a fire or everything will work out. Everything worked out. The water temp goes down. Hobbs meter runs. Oh, but it sounds like it runs continuously. No, it stopped. Now it's on. It's still on. Still on. This is... It must have like a motor with a flywheel. And then it stops. Okay, crank. No crank. All right, we're in neutral. Clutch switch depressed. Why are we not getting start? Well, we do get reverse, right? That works. Well, shuts off. Why no start? After a little bit of troubleshooting, this thing is still not starting. We're turning on the key and nothing is happening, which is unfortunate. So we know now the clutch switch does nothing after a little bit of troubleshooting with the meter. So I'm gonna turn the ignition on, and then I'll show you guys the meter here while I try to crank. So we have this wire here, which is ignition. Obviously, they got tired of beating on the ignition switch, so they put this solenoid over here instead of just connecting directly to the starter's solenoid there. And now I'm gonna turn the key to start, and you should see 12 volts right there. So I'm gonna take it back out of start. Obviously we heard nothing out of this. I also tried jumping this with my starter tester there, and even from battery to the starter solenoid pole there, I cannot get it to pull in, which means it's probably dead. Yes, I beat on it with a hammer, and we've made no progress on that thing. So I think our next thing here is to go grab a new starter solenoid, and hopefully that gets this thing to crank. And if it cranks, it needs the battery terminals too, so we might as well go back to O'Reilly's. If it cranks, we're super close, and it's just fuel after that. So getting close on the electrical system. I'm getting excited. 3 minutes later, we're back at O'Reilly's to grab this starter solenoid and grab battery terminals and cables maybe. All right, We are out of here with a completely new electrical system. We got brand new battery cables because the terminals were junk. Starter solenoid. Also, if you need that super generic starter solenoid, SS581. Down here getting the old hose off of the fuel tank because we're basically ready to drain it down. The Evaporust seems to have done its job. So I cut this with a razor blade and off she comes. And all the hose on this thing was wrong, like it was totally all the wrong size. So we have 5/16, which is what it's all supposed to be. Yeah, it fits so much better. So we'll put some 5/16 line on there, put some clamps on it, and that should solve one major issue. So we just dumped some of our fluid here, the used Evaporust, out of this tank. Let's see what's coming out of it. We're gonna pour it into this container here. It's completely black, yeah, look at that. I mean, I think this stuff can be reused, so I'm probably gonna recover the rest of it. But, I mean, this was like super nice, clear Evaporust when it went in, and now it is nasty. So, we're gonna drain it all back down into these bottles and I guess put used on the side of them. Negative battery cable, a Superstar SK8420. And pull this out. This is gonna replace what was even bigger. This is a pretty massive battery cable we have here. But we're gonna go to a 4 gauge because obviously it's plenty of wire. So hopefully it fits on the block. Let's get the old battery cable off here. Obviously these old battery cables are beat, so I think this is gonna make a big difference in how she starts. Directly to the block. Doesn't get any better than this. That should be good. So one of the issues with this thing was every single time it would crank, it would like spark and create like a bad connection on the battery every single time. So the goal with this here is to fix the battery connection issue. It's just funny, I mean, it would crank and then no more connection to the battery. So after this, oh, I shouldn't hook that up. I've got it all set up, it's ready to go. The only thing that's left is putting that new starter solenoid on, which I should probably just go ahead and do because the bare wires are sitting over there. Better not put the battery back. Well, we're waiting on a couple things to get done, and our side panels are super messed up here, so I'm gonna try to fix it. So hopefully this works. Look at that. Nearly perfect. I wish I had a vise that was this big so I could get the bend right. But also, I think the bend is about like this. Nothing like having a solid steel body on a vehicle you can just beat. I think we're pretty close to perfect on that. Better than I could have ever hoped. Starter solenoid time, our SS581. It is not exact, slightly different than the old one, but it is the exact same whole layout. The bracket moves and all the terminals are the same. So we're gonna go back with our old mounting hardware, just slide it right back in the same holes, put this thing in here, like so, and then we've got lock washers and nuts for the other side, and we'll tighten that down and use all that brand new hardware on our the terminals there, the posts. This thing is has so much money in it accidentally. I was just talking about, I need somebody to buy this for like $1,500 because it just accidentally spiraled out of control and everything on it's brand new. Fuel pump, solenoid, key switch, gas tank fixed, all the fluids, like what on earth? I have no use for this in reality other than our one trip to Taco Bell we plan on taking. So everything's going on. Don't take the terminals off of these. You just want to add the lock washer and the other nut on top of it. So, whoop, almost lost that forever, but we didn't, so that worked out. Also, it pokes everything out enough that you don't have to like bury the terminal in there while you're trying to put it together if you do it like this. So, a couple more seconds, and I'm ready to test it out. I sure hope this was the issue. I don't see how it couldn't be though, because obviously we checked everything else with the voltmeter and it was all working out just fine. Everything but this was doing what it was supposed to do. I think that looks, well, it's a lot better than it was before, I can tell you that. All of this is better than it was before. So, we've got our new starter solenoid. Let's hook up our battery cables, see if we got it. Yeah, we had to break out the universal wrench to get the old battery cable off of here, which actually worked just fine. We're gonna straighten out the new one. I want it to route nice and pretty, obviously. And then we're ready to tighten this down. Maybe put a little bend in it too so it matches the old one. Here goes the old battery terminal that never worked at all. Every time it would try to start, first, I mean, you can see, it's had a bad life. But every time we try to start it, it would like arc and stop working. And of course I couldn't be tightened down because I had the wrong bolt in it. It was just junk. So we have solved this problem with a brand new everything. Another super start cable here. And this one should never have an issue as long as people take care of it. Time for our negative and our first actual test of this thing all set up correctly. I think it's gonna work. Hope you guys are as excited as I am about this actually being a nice setup. I guess we can go straight to the test. Fire extinguisher's right there. It works! Yeah! Brand new battery cables, brand new starter solenoid, so much better. I am excited to hear that. Every time I tried to start it before, it was a fight. I'd have to come over here and wiggle the battery cables and try to start it again. Now, we are headed towards success. Let's get this fuel pump changed out, now that I just got all the wiring done. Slide this guy over. We're gonna pull this fuel pump off, change it out for another one. I can't win! Anyway, this fuel pump was making noise, but now it's not even making noise. Huh. I know that fuel pump's hooked up. So we're getting our fuel system built. I grabbed 10 foot of 5/16 fuel line, and that is seeming to be enough to get this all laid out just the way I want. A little sawing with the razor blade here. I don't think I have my tubing cutting thing here. There we go. Nice clean cuts. There's a fuel pressure regulator. I'm putting it back just because it was already there before. So we'll have a hose coming in like that. This hose is measured and runs to the carburetor. It's absolutely perfect, doesn't touch anything. And over here, you can see I've got the new fuel pump mounted, and our main fuel line from the tank is in there and routed as well, but it needs some standoffs. Originally, they had done something to hold this up. They had nice rubber isolated clamps down here. There's studs for the fuel line. So you can tell it was done right when it was built. And then when I took it apart, it just had a ton of zip ties holding it on. So I think we may also, unfortunately, be putting a ton of zip ties back until I can get clamps for 5/16 fuel line that sit on those studs. Still have to rinse this tank out, fill it up with gas, and then I think just hitting the start switch. That should just pretty much get us there. So we're going to go ahead and put this back and get it cut to length to go to the fuel pump here. And after that, all that's left is washing out the tank, I think. We also tried to get the lights to work for a long time. It's this switch right here. We found out this rusted cable is the choke. I thought that was actually the light switch, but no, it's fully stuck. That's the choke, and this was the lights. And even hitting it with the sledgehammer, we've had no luck dislodging that switch. So I tried taking it apart, and of course the switch is broke internally. Well, everything is hooked up now except the main fuel tank, and I don't think I even need it. Honestly, I could just grab a gas can and stick this pump line in it, because we do have an electric pump. It should be able to lift a little bit of it. I know you want to depend on gravity a little bit, but electric pumps can do a little bit of magic there. We are watching all the Evaporust get fogged out of the tank there. Obviously, we're doing our water fills, and we're just cycling it over and over and over with water. You saw how nasty the water is mixed with the Evaporust. So I think it did its job. I think it did its job very well. And if you look at this, we got our fuel pump all hooked up. Everything's routed the way I want. I think we're ready to start it right after this. Everything's hooked up. We're sitting on the carb. I'm gonna put one more clamp over here on the carbs fuel line. And we got the whole electrical system's basically fixed and new. So hopefully just a few minutes from now, we are out on the road driving this thing. I won't have any lights, unfortunately, but I just wanted to go driving around on the street. We'll just duct tape a tag to the back and call it a car. Trying to get the water fountain? That's a real nasty water fountain. Just to double check my theory on the switch, we found out it is bad. I jumped it with a wire, and now if we turn the ignition on, lights. This thing looks cool with lights. And that rear light should work too. And we were trying to troubleshoot the strobe. The strobe should be on whenever the ignition's on, and I figured out why it doesn't work. Come with me. Here's our beautiful safety strobe, and there's the problem with the safety strobe. This thing has been swimming in water for years, so I might try to find another one. It's a nice xenon strobe, but honestly, I don't really need it to go to Taco Bell. It'd be cool. It's time to test out all of our work here. It was a lot of different projects at once on this thing. It was basically restarting what we did, the ignition system. We cleaned the carb initially. It probably needs cleaned more. I'm sure the float's sticking, so it's probably gonna overflow with fuel when we fire this thing up. But I'm just hoping we can take it out for a drive, so please, carburetor, please don't let me down. Now, we've got the Evaporust did its job. We flushed gallons and gallons and gallons and gallons of water through this tank afterwards, and I think we ended up getting all the trash out, which was impressive. The Evaporust, it looks like fresh metal where it was sitting. I am blown away by how good that actually is. So, we're now ready to try to start it for the first time. So, fuel pump, fuel, and choke. It tried to start. Oh, very nice. This stuff's flying everywhere. Yeah. Yes! It runs! Let's open the door. Okay, actually we're gonna put the platform on here. I need the seat, unfortunately. Unfortunately, I need the seat. I wish I didn't. Then we're gonna get this thing outside immediately and take it for a rip because I think it's ready to go. And we did end up cleaning the air cleaner hose out, so I think everything's okay with that. Put the air cleaner back on, but it's not attached to the car because obviously I have no choke. Oh, I can use the manual choke. It works just fine. Well, the detailers probably aren't gonna like this, but this seat is so nasty. I'm gonna try to fix it. Try to get all this black trash off. I just don't want to track it into my truck. Only reason I'm doing this. Well, it's not as bad as I thought. The steering wheel is sure as bad as I thought. All right, one more round with this and we'll finish with a cleaner rag. This is just their express interior cleaner. The old drill brush. I mean, that is a lot of dirt. This was clean when I started. It was white bristles. All right, I'm gonna get the far end and wipe it down. All right, let's see if we saved this old seat. I know one thing we aren't saving is that steering wheel is just toast. Okay, can I sit on it? My hand's pretty clean. I can sit on it. That was a lot black. Turn this rag black. Check the oil again, looks good. Oh, I just ruined my pants. Time for our first drive. We're out of gear. Clutch. It moves. Oh, yes. Or not. You know what? I might have lost. We don't have much fuel. We've got a little bit. It barely covers the bottom. Come on, girl. It also needs warmed up for real. Well, I think that was a very successful first drive of my airport tug. I am so pumped to have this thing moving. I didn't make the Taco Bell yet. We're gonna have to make that a whole video. I'm just gonna take it and drive it down the sidewalks because it fits on the sidewalks and it's not a car. It's just some sort of go-kart police. Don't worry about what I'm doing. Anyway, soon we will be able to drive this thing on the street for real. I'm glad I took it down the street and I did a donut and I came back and did some great wheelies, and right when I pulled into the parking lot it died. And there was so much trash in the fuel filter still. I mean, we did really good, but I had to pull the fuel filter off the pump and then reverse flush it, and a bunch of trash came out, put it back on, and we put some fresh fuel in it, and it kept going again. So we're definitely getting a bunch of trash out of the fuel system still, just the tank, right? Because everything else is brand new. And it started right back up, and we drove it inside. Now, we gotta figure out, I think I'm gonna get the solvent sprayer, finish dumping the tank one more time, spray all the sides out to make sure we got everything loose out of there, and then fill it with gas again, and I think we'll be home free. So that's really the next step for the airport tug. I probably won't even show that because it seems relatively simple, just 20-30 minutes of work. But we got the thing running, driving, and it could pull around anything. You guys saw first gear. First gear is crazy low. It's a walking gear. So we'll get that sorted out, hook up the air cleaner to the carb. Once it starts starting reliably, I need to get the choke sorted out, or just a choke cable, that's all, and put the sides back on. So that's my Pettibone Mercury airport tug. It rocks. It has a horn. It has everything working except for the choke, the light switch, and the strobe light, and a little bit of cleaning on the fuel tank. No big deal. That is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to head on over to shop.watchjairgo.com for cool shirts, not like this. And please like, share, subscribe, do whatever you want to do. And I will talk to you next time. It'd also be cool if it was painted, but I think I'm ready to sell it. So if anybody needs an airport tug, because you live at one of the airfields around here, Stearman, Cook, whatever, or you're Clemens Aviation, any of you guys, let me know. I'm ready to put this thing on a trailer and get it over to you. Everything is new. All the battery cables, starter solenoid, a lot of the wiring, fuel lines, pump, all of it, switch. I'd say it's super close to being perfect. So if you want to save yourself whatever they charge for these, $35,000 or something like that, this one's for sale. So hit me up. I'm going to try to get everything else sorted out. I probably won't. 50-50 on this. These things are expensive. Those xenon strobes, they're like 250 bucks. So I don't mind getting the carb and the engine running really well, and it drives great. Brakes work great. I do mind spending a bunch more money on it because I'm already very deep into this. What do we spend? When it was just today, like 100 points, $10. Switch, 60. Fluids. I've spent a lot of money on this thing. I have about 750 in it now, probably maybe 800. It just drinks money. Yeah, I should have stopped when we were done earlier, but you know, it needed a light switch. So one more trip to O'Reilly's and we found a switch that is incredibly close. Mine's 7/16. This one's a tiny bit smaller shank, and that part was a Dorman 85955. So it's just the generic push-pull switch for some lights that I found out front at O'Reilly's, and that should, I mean, that's one more thing. We're really close to perfect on the airport tug. Global fill for the sewage. Pretty cool. Apparently this stuff packs better than any gravel or anything like that.